guys, it's Stacy and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be creating a couple of shaker cards and we're going to sew on my sewing machine. I'm going to show you how you can create these shaker cards with some acetate and your sewing machine, and we're going to color up these cute little images from the LOTV shop. These ones are digitals, but they also have photopolymer. I'll link it down below. This is for Saturday Morning Makes, hosted by Jill Norwood. Open collaboration for anybody who makes any cards, any hobbies, sewing, clay, baking, painting, whatever it is, you're open to join. So I'll leave all of Jill's information down below, and any information concerning Saturday Morning Makes will all be down below too. So I'm just coloring up these images. And I'm, of course, coloring with Copics. If you've been to my channel before, that's my jam. That's what I do. 99% of the projects I make are with Copics. So hopefully you enjoy that. And if you don't, hopefully you're still inspired by what I'm putting out here. And instead of using the tip-to-tip method, I decided to color my darkest color onto, or my mid color onto the glass mat I have there, and pick it up with my lightest color to do that blend, because I wanted a smoother blend. So that's what I was doing there. I actually liked how it worked, but I do have to say that it does pick up more ink. So be careful if you do that, because it could very much be like your mid-tone or the tone you're using. See there how I picked it up, and then I was using it to blend it into the next color. So that's what I'm doing there. And if my voiceover sucks today, which the last couple have, guys, I'm sick again. My daughter decided to bring my little cootie monster grandson over, and he had a runny nose, and I knew he wasn't feeling well, but I thought, oh, it's probably the same thing. Well, I didn't know that before he got here, but I thought, oh, it's probably the same thing our son has. Nope. So now I got a double whammy, and the others in our house are probably going to get sick too, because we're already all we're feeling under the weather. But whatever this is hit hard and fast, and yeah, it's no fun. I know a lot of you are sick out there, so no, you're not alone, and hopefully it passes fast. So I did take my colorless blender there. That's what I was doing. Some of the lines I colored a little over on, and so I was pushing that color back up into the image. At the end, it's not going to totally matter. And then there's that spot that's kind of floating there by the darker bunny, which was some ink I got on my finger, and a little fingerprint smudge there. And you can use a Tombow mono sand eraser to get those up too. Possibly if it's seeped a little too far into your cardstock, it may not lift up all the way, but it will lighten it. But I'm going to fussy cut these images, so it's really not going to matter in the end. And I really went with a color combo using those E20s, I believe, which is a little bit different for me. I usually stick to the warm grays or go with the E70s. And I decided to try these out. And I really liked how they came out. They have a little bit more of a red hue to them, and some of those E's are ones that I use in skin tones. So at first I was a little hesitant. I just kept going with it, and I think they came out really cute. These little images are digis that are a little bit larger than the stamps when I printed them up, and I have them printed on Nina 80 weight solar white cardstock, and that's because I am going to use colored pencils with Gamsol for some of the shading, and when we get to that, I'll explain what pencils I'm using. So this image here is the only one I'm going to color up on camera. The other image I did not color. If you're interested in the colors, just leave me a comment. But I used warm grays, and I think very much similar in the greens and the pinks. So I just didn't want to keep everybody around for double coloring, but I did want to share a couple of projects with you using this method with the sewing machine, which was a lot of fun, guys. If you have a sewing machine, I say take it out, use it, Use it for your paper crafts if you're not sewing anything, or if you haven't, embellished your paper crafts with it, you can use it. It doesn't have to be a shaker card. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when that part comes up. And if I can do it and you don't have any experience, you can do it. My husband bought me this sewing machine at Joann's, and I know Joann's is going out of business. And we knew the manager back then, and so he gave us this discount, which was 30% off, which you typically cannot use on sewing machines. Sell price only. I think we got it for like $80. It's a Janome, I think. I think that's how it's pronounced. And it actually has a metal housing in it, even though it's teal and it's pretty and the rest of it's plastic, and it's like an entry level or crafters. They consider it kind of crafters or newbie sewing machine. If you look it up, it's actually a really good sewing machine for a budget-friendly price. So if it's new to you, I suggest it. I love it. The only sewing I'd ever done prior was in ninth grade in home ec, and I made like one project. That was it. And then I figured it out. It's not, this machine's not complicated. It just, for me, the bobbin and loading that bobbin and getting it tangled, I had to learn those little things. And so I lost a lot of thread and material in the beginning, but if I can do it, you can do it. And if you're not sure, you can ask me and I'll give you advice. But there's so many wonderful YouTube videos out there. And my daughter's not really ever sewn, and she got the same machine and she can use it and loves it. So it really is user friendly, and you don't have to mess with the tension in that machine. I haven't. And that was an issue I had before. What I did was I took a Derwent chocolate colored pencil, and you can use brown, you can use black, gray, whatever color you want. And I went ahead and shaded in those darker areas, and then used my blending stump with some Gamasol. That's what was on the little cotton ball in that little container. If you've seen my videos before, I put it in there. That way I can close it up, and then I just moisten my blending stump on that cotton ball instead of pouring out the Gamasol. And I learned that from Sandy Allnock. She puts it in a glass container. I didn't have one. I used an Old Spice thing that I washed out. Here's the acetate. It was used for scrapbooking. So if you have scrapbook sleeves, and this one isn't, this is just a single, but I've used scrapbook sleeves too and cut them apart because I have a bunch. And I cut it down to 1/8 of an inch smaller on each side so that it didn't overlap my card base. So it's a 4 1/4 by 5.5 card, 1/8 of an inch smaller. I glued that pattern paper down, and as you could see, I had just held it with my hands. I was going to use tape. It didn't work all that great, so I just used my hands. And then I'm hand cranking it at the end because mine doesn't have an automatic stop where the needle goes down. So when you pivot and turn, some machines are smart enough to know what you're doing. They're digital. This one is not. And I just lift the foot up and then lower it when I turn. And I'm going to sew these 3 sides up, and I just have a straight stitch on this one. And I'm going to show you a different one coming up here. And I'm hand cranking it to the end because I'm not, like I said, I'm a noob. I'm new. So I hand crank it. Even on my sewing projects I do. So I'm just attaching that. That's all I'm doing. And I used some pretty iridescent thread. And the bobbin color was whatever I had in there, which I think was a tan color, which worked out because you couldn't see it on the back. But you're not going to see it. Now, if you leave your threads hanging and you don't trim all those up, you will. So you may want to be mindful of which thread you're using for that reason. But I did use like an iridescent that had like pinks and teals in it so that it matched the color wave of the pattern paper in the background. And then I just used some shaker mix that I had. I think that's like Sizzix or Spellbinders that I got at Tuesday morning forever ago. And I loaded it up, and I'm going to show you that I'm going to sew this shut. Now I only did the top, and I realized that my bobbin thread had broke or was out or something. And later on I went around, but I don't show that here. So I'm going to show you another one doing the process so that you can see it from start to finish, but I wanted to include this because I didn't set up my camera for the second one when I filmed it. So I'm just doing a straight stitch there, and you'll see me go around, and I'm being fully transparent that my bobbin thread broke as I turned. I don't know, but it closed the top. That was nice. And then I'm just kind of squiggling it around so it has some wonky stitching. And I did go back once I figured it out with the bobbin and fixed it. And it had some extra holes in there, which didn't bother me. It actually looks cute. So you could do this just to put that texture into your cardstock with no thread. I would make sure you have a sharp needle, especially going through the acetate or plastic and the cardstock. And I believe paper will dull it out more quickly than it will with fabric. And then I'm going in, this is a 5x7 card base, and make sure your strings are pulled back, your bobbin and from your needle, because it will jam it up. My machine jams easily, and I used to struggle with that a lot in the beginning, and it was because of that. And I leave my tails really long. And so I switch this to a zigzag, and that's what's going on there. And a lot of times I hand crank it at the end. You're seeing me struggle here because fabric, when it overlaps like that, you just kind of bunch it up on the edge there. But I realized, oh, it's paper. And so I was going to stop it and remove it. And I thought, let me give it a go and kind of flex the cardstock, and it worked. Here, I don't know why I chose to undo it. I think it's because when I went to turn it, it got a little, I went a little too far, and I didn't want it to jam. So, and then I'm hand cranking that needle down where I want it, making sure it's positioned where I want it, and then I'm going around. And with zigzag, I went a lot slower. Like, I think this is double speed, and it's just because that stitch is a little bit more comfortable for me, I suppose. And I'm not forcing that through. I put the shaker mix in there. I don't know if you can see that, and that's going to be the top that I'm closing. And I did that off camera. I didn't want to have to set up the camera and whatnot again and move everything, so that's why, guys. And I think even in some of them, I might have even sewn through some of the sequins on the last one. It didn't bother me. I thought it looked cute. And then I went in and I closed it up. And then I switched it over to a straight stitch, so that when you see me back stitch, that's what's going on there. And I'm letting it be kind of messy. I wanted that look. And I pull my tails really long and trim them because I'd rather waste thread than have my machine jam on me or the needle come unthreaded. Especially if you start with a back stitch, it'll pull it out. And then I'm just going around the corners, and I'm adding some, wonky straight stitches, and then I add them on the sides and a little bit on the bottom, and then I'll show you the actual card. But yeah, the possibilities even of just embellishing your cards with your sewing machine, you can do that with thread, without thread, and I think I'm going to start bringing out my sewing machine more to do that. I mean, it just sits and collects dust most of the time. And we pay a lot of money for stitched dies and different stamps that look stitched. And if you've got a sewing machine sitting there, and why not? Why not use that? And you could put all kinds of different thread in there too. So pretty. I have so many ideas. Like I said, I'm just going around and adding some extra stitching. And these pattern papers are from Hobby Lobby. They're really pretty. They're on one of my videos for a haul I did. If you're curious to which ones they are, but use whatever pattern paper you have, or don't put pattern paper. You don't have to put that. But if you do put pattern paper in these, and here I'm trimming up the thread. I was debating whether or not to leave them really long, so some of them I did, and then I was like, so I just trimmed them off. If you're going to put pattern paper in the background of your shaker cards, make sure it's adhered down really well, and I would do it flat, not with any dimension, because your shaker bits can get up underneath there, and you don't want that. So I'm just trimming all these little loose threads, and there it is. Here, I'll shake one. And it actually moves pretty well. Now on the larger one, I did get a bit of a bubble because when I was putting it through, it kind of bunched up the acetate, and that was my fault. If you do that, I mean, just try to keep it flat. The one worked out great. The other one, I did have that little bit of an issue, but it's not enough to not make it malleable or cause any problems with it. And then I attached those images of those bunnies on the back with dry glue. So like double-sided tape. I used my tape runner. And then on the next one, you're going to see I did a lot of the stuff off of camera. And I did it with some like tear tape, double-sided. And I attach everything down because wet glue is going to take forever to dry and it has a possibility of lifting. So aren't they cute? I think they're adorable. And I encourage you to use what you have in your craft room. You don't have to go out and buy anything new. Just use what you got and see what you can make. Thanks, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. And I'll see you next time. Bye.